Many people who find that their relationship is drifting apart may be unconsciously driving their partner away without even knowing it. Yikes, we don't want to do that.
It's not like I spent 4 or 5 years of my marriage doing that.
And I've done that in my life, and it's just not pretty. But we do all have needs, and we're taught that we need to communicate these needs to our partners in order to cultivate a healthy relationship and keep the lines of communication open. And that's absolutely true. But we need to honestly ask ourselves, what are we communicating while we're communicating?
So let's go through a checklist. Now, there's something that's bothering us and we want to communicate it to our partners. Are they likely to feel happily informed?
No.
Not likely. Are they likely to feel glad and feel like they got an insight into us or themselves and feel inspired to make a change? Not likely. Or is it more likely that we're going to make them feel like they are to blame, that they're bad, mean, selfish, or uncaring? Yeah, I'm pretty good at that one. Mm-hmm. So, what do we do next?
A big part of figuring this out in advance is to check in with ourselves and see how we're feeling before we go into a conversation with our partners. It's rare that we can communicate feelings of love and compassion when we're feeling pissed off and hurt. It's also rare that we can communicate to our partners and let them know how we're feeling without subconsciously making them feel criticized and rejected. And it's also, this is a big one, it's rare that we can repeatedly tell our partners that they've hurt us or they make us feel rejected or neglected without inspiring feelings within them to push away from us.
Well, I had a big revelation with that about 2 or 3 months into my Kundalini yoga meditation practice. I was on a guy's getaway with a buddy of mine, and I was in a conversation with another guy, and the guy asked me, "Hey, Carl, how often do you have to be right in your relationship?" And I thought, well, that's easy. I mean, I'm an easygoing, laid-back kind of guy, tolerant, so the answer is going to be almost never. But just as I was about to form those words, a thought occurred to me, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm pissed at wifey right now. And I was thinking, well, if I'm pissed, that means I must be feeling like a victim because I'm thinking she's wrong and I'm right. So, I'm like, okay, if I'm pissed and I'm feeling like a victim, is a victim ever wrong? And I was thinking, well, no, a victim can't be wrong. It's kind of the definition of a victim. You got to be right. So I think, okay, I got to be right. How often do I feel like a victim? And it occurred to me about 90% of the time. And I thought, holy crap, that means that I must be feeling like I'm right in my relationship about 90% of the time. So I just sort of blurted it out to the guy. I said, about 90% of the time. And he looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, dude, you have to be right in your relationship 90% of the time? And I thought, apparently. And it was such a huge revelation to me. Here I thought I was this kind, loving person, but I was communicating to wifey that she was wrong or bad about 90% of the time. That's totally not where I wanted to be. How would you feel if your partner treated you like you were wrong all the time?
Now, let's think about this for a second. Who in their right mind wants to be in a relationship with another person that thinks that they're right 90% of the time? Wouldn't that mean that the other person in the relationship is wrong 90% of the time? And who even wants to be in the presence of another person that always makes you feel like you're wrong, selfish, hurtful? And how long are our partners going to stay with us and put up with this crazy crap before they leave us or until they silently resent us for years on end? This behavior makes us impossible to live with.
So let's ask ourselves a question. How often do we feel underloved, undercared for, underacknowledged, or even pissed off? These are all ways of feeling like a victim. Now, don't get me wrong, you're entitled to your feelings. We're all entitled to our feelings. And we may even be justified in how we feel, but we should know that it's a rare person who's going to stick around in a relationship to play the bad guy day after day, week after week, and year after year. Unless we want to send that silent signal, push away from me. Unless we want to be the only person in our partner's life who makes them feel bad, right? They have friends who make them feel good, and they come home to us and we make them feel bad. Unless we want to be that role, we need to change how we are, how we communicate, how we subconsciously communicate to our partners.
What is the first step in changing how we communicate with our partners? All right, so now I know what you're thinking. How am I supposed to change anything in my relationship if I can't even say how I feel? I'm screwed if I say something, I'm screwed if I don't. And that's not what we're trying to say here. What we're trying to say is what matters the most in this situation is us, not the other person. So if we can take responsibility for what's going on inside of us, it will drastically change the whole dynamic of our relationships. And we're not suggesting that you be a doormat or you put up with bad behavior. What we're suggesting is that you take responsibility for your emotions and your feelings before you communicate with your partner, and you tap into your own power inside of you that will change everything.
Well, and that's the cool part about that story about me and wifey and that insight I had. I spent about a week thinking about that idea that I made her feel like wrong all the time. And I thought about her, I thought about me, I thought about our relationship, and it explains so much about the dynamic that we had. And so after about a week of processing, I went to wifey and I said to her, I want to apologize for making you wrong all the time. And she said, you don't do that. And I said, no. I apologize for making you wrong all the time. And she said, that's okay. And I said, no, really, I want to apologize for making you wrong all the time. And you should have seen what happened next. Her demeanor completely changed. She stood up straighter, she got tears in her eyes, and I swear there was like beams of sunlight shooting out of her face. That's how much oppression she was feeling, but also how much relief she had from me being able to take responsibility for the messages that I was giving her subconsciously that I totally didn't want to give her.
Now, this was part 1 on how to heal our communication in our relationships. In part 2, we're going to talk about how to process our feelings and emotions before we communicate.
And if you have any questions or comments, go to our website, asacredyou.com, and contact us.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm Amy.
And I'm Karl.
And have a beautiful day.